did promise that we're going to start in 10 minutes, and this was 10 minutes ago. Can I just ask everyone to please take their seats? There's still quite a lot of people on their feet at the back. Can I just request that everyone takes their seats, please? There's quite a few seats this side as well, to my left. Shall we all stand to welcome the DM? Okay, thank you. Everyone can be seated, except DM. They're going to stand up in a few minutes because I'm going to ask everyone to stand up to observe the national anthem. But before we do that, good morning to everyone. I trust that everyone is well this morning and looking forward to the one-day celebration summit for the 30 years of democracy in South Africa. And this event is titled An Event to the History, Present, and Future of the South African Construction Industry. Can we all stand to observe the national anthem? Apologies, everyone. Can I request all the men in the room to remove their hats, please? Thank you. Thank you. You may all be seated. Rocky start that was, but I assure you that's not going to be the theme for today. By way of introduction, my name is Karabo Siila. I'm a board member on the Construction Independent Development Trust, as well as the on the Construction Industry Development Board. Excuse me, I didn't take my Calmets this morning, as well as the Industrial Development Trust. Okay. Let me start off by welcoming all our esteemed guests. A warm welcome to the Honorable Deputy Minister Swartz, the CEOs of the entities that will be part of the panel this morning, all the professors, as well as the distinguished colleagues who are part of the program, as well as a warm welcome to everyone that made the time to be here this morning. I assure you that by the time we leave here today, we would have really gone through the celebration of the 30 years of democracy, specifically in the construction industry, where we will be looking at aspects of how the industry has come in terms of transformation, skills development, and hearing from people in the industry. We will also be hearing from CEOs, policymakers in terms of their contribution to the industry, as well as commemorating industry specialists and people who have benefited from the industry and all the initiatives that have been undertaken within the construction industry. We will also look at the relationships of the entities within the industry and all the roles that have been played by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, specifically in shaping the quality of life of South Africans. Okay. So we have a jam-packed program today, but that should not discourage anyone from actually staying until the end of the program, because you will not regret staying until the end. And I will now call upon Dr. Lerato Ahiman, who is the HOD for the Construction Management and Quantity Surveying Department at the University of Johannesburg, who will give us the HOD address, and then followed by a center address that will be delivered by Professor Clinton Agbabwa, who is the director of the CIDB Center of Excellence.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to all our distinguished guests. My name is Lerato Millicent Arimie, and I am the acting HOD for the Department of Construction Management and Quantity Surveying. I would like to welcome you all this morning as we celebrate 30 years of democracy in South Africa. a focus on the South African construction industry. As we celebrate this 30 years milestone as the nation of South Africa, the Department of Construction Management and Quantity Surveying celebrates its milestones as well. For the first time this year, the seat of the head of the department is occupied by a female. Also, all the programs are accredited by the South African Council for the Project and Construction Management Professions, as well as by the South African Council for the Quantity Surveying Profession. Likewise, as of this year, all the full-time academic staff members have their PhDs. This is a testament of their hard work and dedication in ensuring continuous self-development and delivering quality in their teaching and research. More so, the department continues to be among the departments that produce high research output units within the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment at UJ. Also, the department has 3 research centers, namely the Center of the Applied Research and Innovation in the Built Environment, the CIDB Center of Excellence, and the Sustainable Human Settlement and Construction Research Center. These centers support students, well, most of our postgraduate students, through supervision, financial support, and mentorship. The research conducted within the centers are timely, as they are linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the South African National Development Plan, which ultimately forms part of the overall UJ strategic objectives. As a department, we pride ourselves in training future leaders for the construction industry. This involves providing mentorship, support, and opportunities to help students develop their skills, confidence, and leadership abilities to contribute to a more and diverse, inclusive construction sector. So today, as we listen to the keynote address by the Deputy Minister, Ms. Bernice Swartz, as well as the panel discussion from our distinguished guests about the past, present, and future of the construction industry, may we be reminded of how the industry has evolved over time to this present era, where each South African has opportunities that the past generations did not have. May we also look with hope and anticipation to the sustainable future where the next generation continues to break barriers through the infinite possibilities. Thank you.
Good morning. Honorable Deputy Minister, CEOs present, all the UJ ELG members, SLG members, esteemed panelists, distinguished guests, colleagues, attendees, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say good morning once again and welcome to this particular seminar gathering. As we mark the 30th anniversary of democracy in South Africa, we actually find ourselves not just reflecting on a remarkable journey, but on focusing on the state of construction industry, looking at the past, the present, and with a vision for the future. I'm actually very honored to address this distinguished gathering this morning, and looking at the number of industry participants and captains of industry that we have here. I want to thank every one of us for the opportunity that is provided to us through the CIDB Center of Excellence, and also the DSI and NROF Research Chair for this particular event. 30 years ago, South Africa embarked on a new chapter that was characterized by the spirit of democracy and the promise of equality. There has been transformation since this particular event began since 1994. Our nation has basically seen vast improvement in infrastructure. At the same time, there have been the emergence of robust industries and significant strides towards social equity. As the director of the CIDB Center of Excellence, I have personally also witnessed firsthand the dynamic role that the construction industry has played in the nation building process. The CIDB Center of Excellence stands at the forefront of transformation in the industry. We have been instrumental in pioneering research, shaping policies, and at the same time fostering an environment where knowledge and best practices in the construction industry can actually thrive. Our mission is not only to observe, but also to actively participate in crafting a sustainable and inclusive future for the construction industry in South Africa. And additionally, we're actively involved in human capacity development. We train actively masters and PhD graduates, and at the same time, postdoctoral research fellows and emerging researchers. We have a very strong emphasis on supporting Black South African women and transforming the built environment sector. Today's event is actually designed to celebrate the successes and address the challenge of the last 3 decades with a keen eye on the road ahead. And the essence of our gathering here is to draw from our collective experiences, also learn from the past and strategize for the future. And it also acknowledges the work that still needs to be done and also to empower those who will need to carry forward the mantle of innovation and growth. 30 years from now, most of us will be in our 60s, in our 90s, some will be in their 80s, we might not have the opportunity. So we need to basically forge the way to carry the mantle ahead for innovation and growth. Our discussions here today will revolve around several critical themes. Aside the critical keynote of the Deputy Minister, we're going to be talking about innovation in construction. We're going to look at innovation that have shaped the South African construction industry. We're also going to talk about contractor development in the industry and the built environment education, which is very dear to our hearts. Likewise, we also talk about skills development, public sector service delivery, and at the same time, construction industry digitalization, which is where the world is going to at the moment. These questions are kind of really essential as they will challenge us to think deeply about the legacy that we wish to leave for future generations. And they will compel us to, at the same time, consider not just the physical structures that we are constructing, but at the same time, developing societal frameworks that will help them to maintain them for the next generation. I believe that as we reflect on the 30 years, we need to see a landscape that is marked by significant achievement. The construction industry has developed a lot of new roads, bridges, and public facilities. And at the same time, we need to look at how to increase connectivity to the remote areas that have not been reached. Looking forward, our focus is on sustainability, digitalization, and inclusivity. The global climate crisis demands that we rethink how we design and build. It requires a shift towards more sustainable materials and at the same time, energy efficient processes. And as a center of excellence, we are committed to actually leading this shift through rigorous research and collaborative processes that set new industry standards. In conclusion, the essence of today's event and the work of the CIDB Center of Excellence in collaboration with other entities within the public world is about more than just commemorating a milestone. It is about setting a course for a future that is built on a foundation of innovation, sustainability, and inclusivity. So we are here to challenge the status quo, to ask difficult questions, and to find meaningful answers that will actually drive the South African construction industry forward. So I look forward to insight that will actually emerge from this particular discussion today and to the collaborative efforts that will undoubtedly arise from this gathering. Together, ladies and gentlemen, let us build a legacy that will stand the test of time, a legacy that future generations will look back on with pride. Thank you very much.
I did speak of the transformational aspect within the built environment that is necessary. And Dr. Lerato is testament of the fact that we do have women now coming up in the industry. Can we just give her a round of applause, please? I'd like to thank the Prof as well as Dr. Lerato for the welcoming addresses. It is encouraging, Prof and Doctor, to hear of the strides that are being made within academia in growing our own crop to ensure that we actually have qualified youth in South Africa that will be received in the industry. Thank you for that, and we hope that you will continue doing the great work within this area. Okay. We can move on now to the institutional welcoming address that will be done by Prof Mashawa. Prof Mashawa is the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment. After his welcome address, Prof will also then do the introduction for the Deputy Minister.
I was looking at my time because I wanted to find out whether I will have to say good morning or good afternoon. I couldn't say good noon, but right now it's afternoon, it's 1 minute past 12, so good afternoon. Colleagues, it's really a great honor for me to welcome you to this great institution, University of Johannesburg. Prof. Letlhokwampedi is not here with us because, as you might know, the university has another session right now that is being held at the Soweto campus, where we are visited by the Honorable President Ramaphosa, who is addressing the university at the Soweto campus. My task is to really welcome you, to welcome our guests who have come here to be with us. I'm sure we're looking forward to a great session. We're looking forward to a great summit. And I want to observe protocol and say welcome to our Deputy Minister of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. The Deputy Minister has made sure that you will not forget the department when she comes here to speak to us. You will see that they are at work in building our nation and our infrastructure. I also want to welcome Dr. Msizi Mieza, who's the CEO of CBE and the CEO of CIDB, Mr. Bongani Dladla, and all our panel discussants. I wanted to go through your names, but there were quite a lot, and thought the guests will say, you know, these guys think we are here to listen to him. We're not here to listen to him. We're here to listen to the minister, and he's taking all this time introducing people. I want to welcome somebody else, though, who's not put up on the program, and that is Dr. Ntebu Ngobo. Dr. Ntebu Ngobo, you can stand up. You know, no, you need to. Yeah. Okay, I want to welcome her. She's the HOD. Dr. Lerato told you that at UJ there's transformation, that we have women as head of departments. Dr. Ntebu Ngobo is a head of department for her third term as a head of department for civil engineering technology. So may you please give her a round of applause. So Dr. Lerato, we're not starting with you. We have been on this path to transform, and as the University of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, we also understood that there are other tasks other than just technology, and part of the task that we have been doing is to transform ourselves and to ensure that we will support a sustainable future. I just want to, you know, I was thinking about what am I going to say when I'm meeting you, but I thought of an opportunity that we need to use. And I'll give you the context of this, that unfortunately in life, we tend not to recognize opportunities when we have them. It's only when they are gone that we see them, that, wow, that was such a blessing, such a great thing. And when we are meeting today to recognize the 30 years of democracy in this country, this point was brought to me vividly about 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I was working for the State Information Technology SETA, and my colleague, who was the CFO, his wife passed on from a car accident. And we had to go through all those processes and go through the funeral. But one of the things that touched me as we were going through that session was the preacher who was preaching about how we don't celebrate enough. And he was talking about this lady who had passed on, and the mourners were remembering that about a year before then, this lady had celebrated her 50th birthday. And in celebrating that, it was like she was saying goodbye to everyone. And we were looking at that solemn ceremony, going through it, and realizing that many times in life, we do not celebrate. We do not celebrate enough. If you look at us today, I don't know why you are here, you came yourself, but if you think about it, 30 years of democracy, looking at it in terms of the present, future, of the South African construction industry is really something to celebrate. It's really something to celebrate because in other countries, they will not be able to talk about 30 years. Other countries have many, many challenges. We have challenges in this country. We have youth unemployment, which is, we just had the results recently of unemployment in the country, which is still a problem that we must solve. But there is so much more that we can sit together and celebrate and acknowledge the changes that have taken place, the changes that are continuing to take place. We're not lying to anybody. It's going to be a hard work ahead of us. It's going to be a hard work to transform our country. It's going to be a hard work to get employment at the right level. It's going to be hard work to get NHI, universal medical care. It's going to be a hard work because there's going to be debates, there's going to be arguments, there's going to be those who say that, all of these things are meant so that other people can enrich their pockets. There's going to be accusations, there's going to be many things, but in the midst of all of that, as South Africans, as the people of this country, we really, really need to sit back, reflect, and say, wow, we did it. Many people did not have that hope for us. The hope that they had was that after year one, many people will be immigrating, many people will be leaving this country because there will be no development, there will be nothing. There were lots of expectations that did not come true. This does not mean there are no challenges. This does not mean there is a lot of work ahead of us. We still need more people to study. We still need more people to have skills. And there's a challenge even in that because people do get skills, then there are no jobs, and those are just chicken and egg problems. And there is no way in a perfect world, you will get your degree and you'll get a job. In a perfect world, but not in this world. In this world, there are challenges, there are things to fix. You need to improve further. This is the nature of this world. So we should not, instead of cry and complain and, be negative, no, what we need to do is to look at all of the things and say, thank God. Thank God we are in South Africa. Thank God there is an opportunity. Thank God you have something you can contribute. You can get better. You can know better. Because when you get better, South Africa will get better. When you are able to employ more people will get jobs. When you work harder, things will get better. So instead of me preaching too much, I just wanted you to recognize the day and say, wow, we stand here and we are saying 30 years of democracy. We are able to sit together and celebrate the greatness, the achievements, and the hard work of many others. The hard work of many others. So we are celebrating the hard work of Nelson Mandela. We are celebrating the hard work of Solomon Mahlangu. We are celebrating the hard work of many people who took it upon themselves to make a difference. You also can make a difference in the corner where you are. Some of us go to church. There's a song that says, brighten the corner where you are. Make it brighter, make it better. So that's the opportunity we have. And today, as we meet today, we will make it better for the history, present, and future of the South African construction industry. I know we know many things. We know lots of people who are causing problems, but let's make our contribution count. Thank you. I've been asked to come and introduce the deputy minister. And deputy minister, they gave me a big biography that I need to read, but I didn't print it out. I didn't print it out. I thought I was going to remember it and recite it. I couldn't do that. No, thank you very much. I'm going to try to go through the biography. These are our ministers. And as our ministers, we do know them because we voted for them. Did we? Did we vote? Yes. I mean, you mustn't tell me that you have not voted because as you see now, we are so busy with elections with the elections, we will be asking you to go vote. I'm going to read the biography for your, it's just a summary of the profile. It sounds like a bibliography, a big one, but it says it's a summary. Our Deputy Minister, Ms. Bernice Swartz, born 19 September in Mpumalanga Province. At a young age, she has a passion for politics and youth development, which led her to study journalism, monitoring, and evaluation. While busy with her studies, she was recruited by the ANC movement to play a key role in distributing information about the ANC in and out of the country. She later moved to Johannesburg, where she served in the regional office and in leadership. While serving in the region, she learned many leadership skills, people management, and organizational structure of the ANC, as well as its operations. In 2005, she was appointed in the Johannesburg Roads Agency, the entity of the city of Johannesburg, in the HR department. And while in training and with the training of Johannesburg communities under the EPWP program. This has followed with the training of 1,000 youth in Johannesburg and a special program of the military veterans where more than 100 veterans were trained and graduated under the leadership of the former president, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, who was visiting Johannesburg region as part of the presidential oversight to various regions while accompanied by the mayor of Johannesburg, Councillor Amos Masondo. In 2006, she resigned from the organization to further her political career, where she opened her own business and served in many companies as a consultant to deliver the EPWP program and youth development. She has assisted more than 10,000 community members in various activities, including distributions of blankets, food parcels, sanitary pads, etc. In 2016, she assisted the City of Johannesburg Community Development Department in monitoring Josie at Work program, where more than 100 youth were trained in various skills that include facility management, life skills, and level first aid, where the programs show more than 10 cooperatives being formed. In 2018, she was appointed by the ANC Joburg region to serve as a regional executive committee member, where she later deployed as a member of parliament, serving in the International Relations Portfolio Committee and SCOPA Portfolio Committee. On 7 March 2023, she was appointed Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure by the President of the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Matamela Ramaphosa. Her delegations in the current portfolio include EPWP monitoring and coordination, corporate services, performance management, entity oversight, council oversight, oversight of 4 provincial regions, Mpumalanga, Northwest, Free State, and Northern Cape, and national champion of the DDM in the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda municipality. Deputy Minister, as you can see, I'm not a political person, but I can see in here a lot of experience that we will be able to benefit from hearing from you as we are celebrating 30 years of democracy today. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. Program Director, Ms. Karabo Sila, the Dean of Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, Professor Daniel Mashowa, Director of the CIDB Center of Excellence, Professor Clinton Agbiova, Head of Department of Construction Management and Quantity Surveying, Dr. Lerato Agihimi, Dr. Ntebu Ngobo, CEO of the Council of the Built Environment, Dr. Msizi Mieza, CEO of the CIDB, Mr. Bongani Dladla, DDG Professional Services at GPWI, Ms. Carmen Joy Abrahams, CETA CEO, Mr. Malusi Shezi, IDT CEO, Ms. Tebucho Malaka, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is an honor to deliver an address to this eminent audience, which has been organized by the University of Johannesburg to reflect on the history, present and future of the construction industry. I will leave much about the history of the construction industry to you, as I suspect there are scholarly papers and peer-reviewed books that have covered it. I suspect that a common thread from such a literature review will confirm that the construction industry was segregated like our divided past, and it was a means to mark spaces and give effect to apartheid spatial planning. It may also tell us how colonialism and apartheid destroyed indigenous knowledge systems in architecture and construction methods that were akin to Africa. Such a history will definitely reveal how Africans were systematically turned into a class of cheap laborers, devoid knowledge of in mathematics, science, and engineering fields, as apartheid architects like Verwoerd ensured that Africans were only as good as when they administered to the needs of Europeans, that they had no need for the study of mathematics. Obviously, I'm only entering the discussion as if our past or history only begins with slavery or colonialism, when in fact these two dehumanizing experiences interrupted or disrupted a history and progress of a people who had built pyramids in Egypt, and a people who taught the Greeks medicine and mathematics, a people whose civilization was admired by Europeans. The historical records tells us about the great southern ancient kingdoms of Monapata, Zimbabwe, Mapungubwe, and a people who had in-depth knowledge of astrology and science. I only tease you as a way of saying that as we think about the built environment or construction industry, may we also be inspired by traditional knowledge systems to develop a construction industry that benefits from the strength of our diversity and ancestral knowledge. May this history propel us to discover building materials and construction methods that will make us more resilient to climate change, that will make us restore the role of women in the building, not only of homes, but of civilizations. Fellow compatriots, at the dawn of our democratic era, we had to restructure our economy, and the construction industry was one of the key industries that needed to be transformed. The industry was characterized by a few small construction firms at the top of the food chain, sometimes referred to as the Big Five. The inverse pyramid was very narrow at the top and very broad at the bottom. Opportunities for the majority of our people were limited, and development was very slow. Emerging contractors organized themselves into contractor associations, and these served as important structures to engage government on the challenges faced by the emerging sector. As government, we responded with a number of interventions, including affirmative procurement and emerging contractor development programs, among other interventions. In the early years, the scourge of fronting was more prevalent as government was legislated the transformation of the economy through the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act and the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act. Unfortunately, we also witnessed big business in the construction industry colluding with each other and inflating prices on the FIFA World Cup stadia and on Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project. This demonstrates that the goodwill of government was not accepted by big business, and commitment to the transformation of our economy was lacking. We are unapologetic in our commitment to the transformation of industry that provides fair opportunity to all industry participants. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure has led in the process of transforming our construction sector together with the entities of the department, the Construction Industry Development Board, Council for the Built Environment, Independent Development Trust, and Agreement South Africa, as we continue to drive the development of the industry. We are proud that we stand before you today with the CIDB funding the UJ Center of Excellence as one of the hosts today. The CIDB UJ Center of Excellence promotes research in the built environment and supports postgraduate studies for targeted groups. Government has developed planning frameworks to develop the economy, such as the National Development Plan and the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, which is underpinned by infrastructure development and specific frameworks for the construction industry, such as the National Infrastructure Plan and the Construction Industry Recovery Plan, which was developed with the support of the CIDB. The Construction Industry Recovery Plan enables a focus on the entire infrastructure delivery and maintenance value chain. The CIRP is a construction industry-wide plan focusing on the public and private sectors. South Africa has a strong core network of the national economic infrastructure, yet investment in infrastructure has lagged over the past decade. In addition to reviewing the construction sector, a significant infrastructure push will support the local manufacturing and other related sectors across the value chain. The comprehensive plan outlines a strategic roadmap to rejuvenate and strengthen the construction sector, ensuring its pivotal role in driving economic growth, creating jobs, and advancing sustainable development. The Construction Industry Recovery Plan is built upon 5 key objectives, each addressing critical aspects necessary for a resilient and dynamic construction industry. Robust infrastructure project pipeline with sustainable funding. Our priority is to establish a robust and capable infrastructure project pipeline. To achieve this, we aim to meticulously assess all funding proposals to ensure their feasibility and bankability. Adequate funding is the livelihood of successful infrastructure projects, and our commitment to rigorously evaluate proposals will guarantee that not only the most viable projects move forward. The strategic integrated projects have gained traction, and we will keep up the momentum with the rollout due to the catalytic potential of the SIPS projects. As a department, we have made it a requirement for all contractors to have a standard built-in maintenance plan requirement and to be coupled with basic energy efficiency requirements. The department is working with National Treasury on mainstreaming public-private partnerships supported by the legal and regulatory frameworks and guidelines. We are steadfast in our commitment to enhance industry capacity and promote transformation. This includes bolstering material supplies chains and meeting ambitious transformation targets. We recognize the need to empower women within the industry, foster contract development programs, and enhance skills through project delivery. By embracing inclusivity and excellence, we'll also create a construction sector that reflects our nation's diversity and harness its full potential. The CIDB Build program is being implemented with women-owned contractors being trained across the country. Other designated groups will also be targeted for development. By investing in contractor management systems and training, we stand a chance of improving the quality of our contractors and their crucial role in delivering our much-needed infrastructure in the country. Furthermore, the CIDB has commenced on a process to amend its contractor register so that there are improvements in the competency of contractors registered with the CIDP. Through the CIDP, we have developed a targeted procurement development model policy for the public sector, which enables clients to drive development through procurement, while being compliant with all procurement rules and regulations. Through the department schools, DPWI invest in the improving outcomes in maths and science from grade 9 to matric in no fee paying schools, rural and township schools. Ladies and gentlemen, since 2004, the department has invested more than 200 million to cover at least 634 bursaries in scarce skills in the built environment. Through the Young Professionals Program, a structured mentorship program, we contribute in accelerating professional registration of the previously disadvantaged groups and maximize exposure of candidates to national and international projects. To address the challenge of skills pipeline in December 2023, the department, led by the Council for the Built Environment, finalized and adopted the Built Environment Professionalization and Skills Development Strategy for the public sector. The CBE's annual report for 2022-23 shows that only 14% of registered professionals in South Africa are women. 62% of registered professionals are white, followed by 25% African males, 9% Indian, and 4% colored. Africans and women remain stuck as candidates due to a lack of employment opportunities and mentorship. 62% of candidates are African, followed by 24% white, 9% Indian, and 5% colored. Even more worrying is that more women candidates are only at 28%. The Built Environment Professionalization and Skills Development Strategy for the public sector is centered on 4 pillars: a transformed built environment, fit-for-purpose professionalism, innovative thinkers that are grounded in inclusive approaches and embrace indigenous knowledge, and a futuristic approach in the delivery of infrastructure and development sustainable cities, towns, and villages. No less than 11 interventions have been proposed for implementations of skills strategy, which are establishing a built environment national logbook, setting up a tailor-made compulsory program for non-registered built environment persons in the public sector, aggressively implementing the skills pipeline interventions, and decolonize the built environment to ensure that skills are fit for purpose. Applying a coherent approach in implementing concurrent functions, transforming collaborative forums to be used as a platform to discuss industry issues, implementing transformation sector charter codes for the built environment, fighting corruption and building an ethical sector, implementing government-wide capacity development, design, and project management. The establishment of the Skills Academy College, repositioning the DPWI as South Africa's project management office, adapting new technologies and methodologies, evaluating industry growth and performance. Our vision for the construction industry includes a marked improvement in growth and performance. We intend to instill confidence in investors, assuring them that projects will be delivered with precision, efficiency, and on time. We are resolute in reducing construction costs through modern business practices, embracing cutting-edge information technology, and refining industry value chain management. This commitment to innovation will ensure a construction sector that is competitive on the global stage. We are proud of our partnership with this university and will continue to expand our centers of excellence for the development of research capacity, improve training of built environment professionals, and to transform the academic content and research infrastructure. Through the CIDB, we are spearheading research on the building information model, implementation and standards to guide the industry on its adoption. As covered earlier, the CIDB, through the BUILD program, has commenced the training of women-owned contractors with provision for extension to other designated groups and is enhancing its registration requirements for contractors to improve the competency of contractors reflected on its register of contractors, which is a mandatory requirement for public sector projects. Capacity building within the public sector is crucial to expediting infrastructure delivery. By eliminating impediments, streamlining approval and permit approval processes will create an environment conducive to swift and successful project execution. We are dedicated to establishing institutional capacity that empowers us to better serve our communities and stakeholders. We are implementing the framework for the professionalization of the public sector developed by the National School of Government, making it mandatory to have persons in senior positions that are adequately skilled and knowledgeable. Public sector infrastructure clients are being capacitated on the IDMS framework for infrastructure delivery and procurement management, the CIDB standard for uniformity and other CIDB prescripts. As a department and supported by our public entities, we have commenced the process to make social facilitation an integral part of infrastructure projects with an early involvement of communities so that disruption of construction sites is eradicated. Furthermore, we have strengthened our partnership with law enforcement agencies to combat the scourge of extortion on our infrastructure projects. The department has prioritized the implementation of the refurbishment, operate and transfer program, which aims to attract capacity and capital from private sector to work in partnership with government to improve the condition of specific facilities. The ROTP is planned to be rolled out in 2 phases, with the first phase being a project on at least 3 strategic facilities that require immediate intervention, and the second phase being the long-term rollout of the ROTP to the remainder of high-priority facilities. As government landlord, the department is a custodian of the biggest property portfolio on the continent. The immovable asset portfolio under the custodianship of the DPWI comprises of about 30,000 land parcels, that is 4.7 million hectares of land, on which some 90,000 facilities are located. An estimated 58% of the portfolio is not suitable for occupation. Approximately 3% of buildings are utilized and 35% of land parcels are vacant. A deemed cost has been quantified for the land parcels at approximately 40 billion, and the deemed cost for the buildings and improvements is at approximately 71 billion. Through PMTE is implementing the State Asset Optimization Program, wherein the PMT focuses on areas that require clear delineation between service delivery objectives versus revenue generation or enhancement opportunities. The State Asset Optimization Strategy seeks to involve the private sector to participate through triple Ps, which will focus on ROT and BOT initiatives. Green economy implementation. As stewards of our environment, we are resolute in implementing green economy commitments within the construction sector. This plan identifies opportunities for sustainable materials, supply, manufacturing, and energy consumption reduction. Through these initiatives, we will contribute to a greener, more sustainable future for our country. Responsible property ownership means that property owners must understand their responsibilities with regard to climate change. DPWI is implementing recommendations from various studies conducted by the United Nations Environment Programme. Statistics provided shows that buildings are responsible for 40% of global energy consumptions, 35 to 40% of fresh water consumption, 30% of waste generated through buildings. The built environment also has the highest potential to contribute to the green economy and the sustainable development goals, including the creation of green jobs as well as SMME development. The department, together with ISA and GTEC, has introduced the Integrated Renewable Energy and Resource Efficiency Program, which will introduce the use of renewable energy, solar, clean energy like natural gas, and energy efficiency in buildings in order to introduce cost savings in government immovable asset portfolio. Our Facilities Management and Green Buildings Directorate is working with our Real Estate Management Services branch to introduce green leases, which incorporate, for example, energy efficiency, water efficiency, land efficiency, design efficiency, and the reduction of greenhouse gases. What this essentially means is that you'll have to provide property solutions and buildings that comply with DPWI's green building policy. DPWI is preparing plans to incentivize property owners who meet these resource efficiency imperatives through green leasing. For individuals or companies to lease buildings to government, you'll have to comply with the principles of value for money, sustainability, coexistence between people, and the properties they occupy. Ladies and gentlemen, the CIDB has noted with increasing concerns the poor performance of contractors and abandonment of projects. The role of other stakeholders in a construction project is critical, as contractor performance is integrally linked to the performance of the client in terms of prompt payment to contractors, which the department has been leading on, as well as the performance of the professional consulting team. Alternative models need to be explored to improved infrastructure delivery, to collaborative approaches with shared ownership and commitment to success of infrastructure projects. We launched the CIDB Build program, which provides for a structured approach to skills and enterprise development through infrastructure projects. The program also includes the Build Fund, through which the CIDB has embarked on training targeted 250 women-owned contractors in construction management systems, which will improve the performance of contractors. Work has also commenced on the assessment of contractor competencies, which will be followed up by training interventions. Within the public workspace, work has commenced on the development of the Public Works Bill, which will provide the acceleration of infrastructure development. We have published the Construction Industry Development Board Amendment Bill on the 3rd of May 2024 and invite stakeholders to submit inputs to the department. The CIDB Amendment Bill seeks to strengthen the role of the CIDB in the development of the construction industry, including the enhanced contribution of the private sector. The draft amendment of the CIDB Act is published at a difficult time where we have witnessed the collapse of the residential building in George with over 20 fatalities and counting. Many lessons will be drawn from this tragedy, which will be firmed up as the investigation unfolds. We need to harness the CIDB Amendment Act to enable a new approach on how to deliver infrastructure and how all the participants in the construction process are regulated. The issue of construction sites being disrupted reflects the desired state of the industry and the need for inclusive development. The department has developed a social facilitation framework which was endorsed by Cabinet and provides a guideline for inclusion of local communities and participants in the infrastructure development process. While we are implementing a number of interventions for the inclusion of the emerging sector, we will not tolerate lawlessness, extortion, intimidation, and the hijacking of our construction sites by criminal elements. Despite the challenges that we face as an industry, there are green shoots in areas such as renewable energy projects and other projects breaking ground through the strategic infrastructure projects being rolled out, which also supports a focus on infrastructure project preparation. We thank you for the opportunity to participate in this event, which reflects on the past, present, future of the construction industry. We need to roll up our sleeves and build the construction industry as a key contributor for our economic development. As a department, we look forward to receiving your report on this seminar and learning from it. I thank you.
Thank you so much, DM. Can I just call you back on stage, please, together with Prof. Mashawa?
I don't know whether you have to declare.
I have to. If it's over 1,000
Right.
rand, I have to declare it.
Prof. Mashawa did indicate that the elections are coming up, so we do acknowledge that you've got a busy schedule that you are busy with, but you took your time to be here with us today and to give us that address. So with that said, DM, we'd just like to give you an appreciation or show our appreciation by this token, and we do promise that it's not worth or over 100,000 rand. So you don't necessarily have to declare it.
I have to. I declare anything that's over 1,000 rand.
Thank you once again to the DM as well as Prof. Mashawa, specifically to Prof. Mashawa for reminding us of the essence and importance of celebrating. It's really important for us to look back in order for us to be able to chart a way forward. So thanks for that reminder, Prof. And may we always, I think from now on, take it in that stride to say that every little thing that happens needs to be celebrated. And that's how we improve going forward. DM has definitely set the tone for what is going to happen in terms of the discussions for the panel. She spoke about what happened in the past, what is currently happening now, as well as what needs to happen in the construction industry. We will then move into our panel discussions. And before we do that, I would just like to acknowledge all the panel participants with us today. We will start with Ms. Zamatusi, who is the research specialist at the CIDB. We've got Dr. Msizi Mieza, who is the CEO of CBE. We've got Mr. Bongani Dladla, who is the CEO of CIDB. Mr. Bongani Mchali, who's the Chief Director, Infrastructure Assessment and Analysis, and MISA. We also have Ms. Cameron Joy Abrahams, who's the Deputy Director General for Professional Services for the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. On the second panel, we have Ms. Trifina Khokong, who is the founder and CEO of Triumph and Zoe, who will be the moderator for the second panel. We also have Mr. Malaka, who is the CEO of the IDT. We've got Mr. Malusi Shezi, which is the CEO of CETA. Prof. Marchi, who is the Director of Sustainable Materials and Construction Technologies from the University of Johannesburg. And lastly, we've got Prof. Wellington Twala, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment for the Walter Sisulu University. So thank you to our panelists today for making the time to be with us. Just wanted to give you that acknowledgement. With that said, the panel discussions are going to look around the innovation, built environment education, skills development, public sector service delivery, as well as the contractor development. So on the first panel, we've got Ms. Zamatusi, who is going to moderate this session. And if I can please call on stage Dr. Mayeza, Mr. Dladla, Mr. Mchali, as well as Ms. Cameron Joy Abrahams, please.
No, I'm not sure this first. CEO will be joining us on CB.
Good afternoon again, everyone, and all protocol observed. My name is Zamatusi. I'm from the CIDB. I'm a research specialist. I will briefly I know our panel is probably exhausted with introductions, but once more, just for good measure, I will start with the rose among the thorns. I'll start with DDG Abrahams. She is the General Professional Services from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. To her right, we have Mr. Bongani Mchali, who is the Infrastructure Analysis and Assessment Chief Director at MISA. Next to him, we have our CEO, Mr. Bongani Dladla from the CIDB. Thank you so much, panelists, for taking the time to be here. We just looking at you all, I'm very excited about the discussions we're about to have. This particular panel will really focus on built environment education. We'll look at contractor development, and we'll also look at the last one, public sector service delivery. Panel 2 will then focus on innovation as well as other critical aspects of the built environment and the broader construction industry. So I think what I'll do is I'll bring the conversation or started, looking at the educational aspect. And oh, apologies, I've actually forgotten to introduce our panelist online. That is Dr. Msizi Meza. He is the CEO of the Council for the Built Environment. Hi, and yeah, I hope he can hear us and see us. Okay, so as I was saying, I would want us to really maybe start the conversation off with the educational aspect and then bring that, or further it by discussing issues of once now one is, a professional or has been professionalized within their respective, fields, and what happens in industry, where do we see the built environment going, and the construction industry as a whole. So I will start with Ms. Abrahams. If you could answer for us, what do you think are the main challenges within the construction industry with regards to public sector delivery, and what solutions could you propose? And I think looking at it from the perspective of what the department is doing and how they are trying to foster, professional development within, the different disciplines within the built environment.
It is indeed good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon, Deputy Minister, and all my colleagues, and the leadership within the university, and all the young people. It's so great when I got here to be able to be in this particular space. Now, I looked at this particular matter more from a contractor perspective, and what are some of the challenges that we are faced with, particularly in the construction industry. So some of the challenges we are faced with, particularly if you're a new contractor, would be able to ask the question, where do you, when you start, you ask yourself, new. What is a new contractor? And a new contractor is somebody either that hasn't been in the industry prior, or it's just starting up and doing a different role that they are undertaking within the industry. And the question we as policymakers need to ask is, what are the challenges that they are faced with? And these challenges we have all come across: limited finance, reputation, changing market, issues such as understanding regulation, etc. Now, if you're a contractor and you are going to have to come into the industry, the question is, what exactly are you going to be doing that would make you successful? You'd be looking at things such as managing contracts, planning, controlling, etc. And you find that when you are undertaking work, particularly in a contractor space, it is a very complex component because you have to bring in different moving parts. So for us as policymakers, the question we're going to have to ask is, how do we support those that are new within the industry, given the fact that you are faced with quite a bit of challenges in relation to this? I was also interested to know what is the definition of what we call a bakkie contractor. We've heard that several times. And so for me, when I looked through, I specifically then said, it says it's a term that is used to describe individuals, small businesses that provide construction or trade services. They typically do small jobs, renovation, repairs, landscaping. As policymakers, we need to then ask the question, how do we get them into the system and how do we support them? Then also, when you look then, when they come into the system, what do they have to do? As mentioned, they need to plan, they need to organize, they need to be able to direct, they need to control, they need to monitor. As government, we need to be able to ask the question, how do we go ahead and support them through this particular exercise? And then when you look at the challenges that they are faced with, it's interesting, and I would want to ask some of us as policymakers to sit back and ask the question, have we ever typed in how to access finance? Now, all banks, whether it be Absa, Standard Bank, FNB, Capitec, Investec, whatever else, will all give you the standard talk. They will tell you we're able to give you loan financing, access for vehicles, access for working capital, etc. What they don't tell us is the criteria to be able to access that. And so we then have various interventions to try and help people to gain access to finance. But the reality of it is that if I search today, and you as young people search today, what will you find? You will only find that you can access the finance if government, number one, has a development finance institution. There is a contractor development program. Otherwise, you would then say today, May 2024, I'm looking for funding today. How do I access it? And the answer is the information is difficult to get to. So I think as a reality for new contractors, they face quite a lot of difficulty to be able to get into the industry. And the question could be, for us as government, how do we go about helping them to get into the industry?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that insightful response. I think a great follow-up to that, and hopefully the man who has the answers would be he who regulates the construction industry. So my next question is directed at you, Mr. Dladla. What in light of what DGG Abrahams has just mentioned, what then would be and maybe let's not, she's highlighted the challenges already that exist for emerging contractors, but maybe you can let us know what is the CIDB specifically doing to encourage development programs, and which are those that have proven to be successful in terms of supporting the growth of emerging contractors.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say first, I'm dressed like a student, unlike Prof. Mashawu, Prof. Twala, Prof. At least me and Mahasha closely resemble a construction management student. Yeah, but to also add on what my colleague DDG has indicated, some of the challenges for the new contractors, you also have to consider the rate at which technology is changing as to whether they'll be able to compete in future. For instance, in my construction life in the past, we sort of did a project where we were doing site supervision, partially site supervision and security using drone technology. And then you think to yourself, to saying that is a serious cost-wise, having warm bodies and doing that, it's quite different. And once clients start catching up with that, you will find that there will be many challenges. And Prof. Mahashi, once they perfect issues around materials and 3D printings, those that would have had the capital to potentially invest heavily on that, new emerging contractors might have a challenge of catching up. But we have to work to go around that. Another aspect that I think is quite important, especially as we're discussing with the colleagues in the built environment, is the issue around systems in businesses. You will find that this cohort here will have good technical skills, but they might lack, it's better with construction management and quantity surveying, they might lack the business management skills, the legal interpretation of contract and all that. Whereas you also have on the other side, people with those skills, but without the technical skills. So marrying the two would be quite important. And also, obviously, the cost of tendering is quite exorbitant for many emerging contractors, where you have to fill in documents over and over again. So we also need to innovate around that particular aspect. In terms of programs and solutions, which we work with industry to try and come up with, there is a National Contractor Development Program that was from grade 1 to grade 6, to saying if you are going to be supporting contractors and also with developments in the procurement bill, we will do that much more easier now with set-asides for targeted groups. So that could assist in terms of real experience on the ground and real projects. The other important aspect, as the Deputy Minister has alluded to, the build program that is not making it a nice to have enterprise development in contracts by making it compulsory. So that aspect is also quite important for us to capitalize on and enforce that part. Because if you look at wherever we've done it, where we've made it, what do you call this? English is escaping me now. If you make it a nice to have, someone, Tebogo here as a CEO will decide whether they will do enterprise development in their projects. Because obviously, when people see other contractors or smaller contractors, they are looking at them sometimes as their future competition rather than part of their value chain, their supply chain. So it's quite important is that from the policy perspective, we make those things compulsory. So for now, through the Ministry of Public Works and Infrastructure, it is compulsory that for any project above 20 million rand, they must subcontract components of that. And that subcontracting must be developmental in nature. It is not to say to DD, go and buy material and deliver it on site. At the end of the project, there must be a proper monitoring and evaluation process to saying, what skills did DD have when he entered the site? What do they gain when they left? Because and we have to learn from the mistakes on the regulatory aspect to saying, yes, we had 30% subcontracting from the PFMA 2017 regulations, and that was a positive step. But in some instances, it ended up becoming just a transactional thing. You will go and buy material, deliver it on site. That's not how you develop a contractor. So again, from regulators, we also need to strengthen that aspect of monitoring and evaluation to ensure that these programs deliver what we need to do. I know someone threatened me to be quick, Karabo, here, but yeah. because I have friends that can protect me. I was like, there's also changes also in the regulatory framework where we will have a significant bias towards built environment professionals because those are much more easier to train. You know, see, when you guys graduate with your BScs and diplomas, to me, it doesn't make sense for you guys to start at grade 1 because you've learned some of these things theoretically, but you will start at a grade where you can apply those skills. And then another important one, CJ, that you started alluding to is this one of development through partnership. There is no need when you're talking about funding. We have NYDA, we have CIDB, we have CETA, we have CIFA. We also need to create proper programs, of which we are doing, so that we can just combine the efforts of this. And I believe in construction because it creates a lot of employment. It's what we need for service delivery. So if we can just put our efforts around that, obviously I'm biased in that view.
Okay, I think, yeah, I should be audible now. So yeah, thank you very much for that. It definitely a mouthful, and there's definitely, you know, a lot of great takeaways that, you know, we can gather, I guess, from this panel. And it's very, you know, interesting to hear you say that you definitely have to find, you know, a gap or bridge the gap between, you know, those that are technically skilled and those that are, you know, not so technical, and how do you just bring everybody up to the same level. And I think with that, let me move on to you, Mr. Bongani, Mr. Mshali. So my question to you then is, looking at the current economic, you know, climate, and I would want you to really respond looking at, you know, your respective environment in terms of municipal, you know, infrastructure and you know, the delivery of that. So how can do you think, in your view, how can established construction firms and government bodies support the development of smaller contractors in order to foster more competitiveness and a diverse industry landscape?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, DM. Good afternoon, colleagues and everyone present. It is a very important question that you're asking. You know, in fact, it reminds me of my earlier days, you know, working in a municipal environment space, not only just as, you know, a policy maker, but also as a practitioner. You know, we are bombarded with what is called currently, you know, construction mafia. Basically, just to simplify it, you know, it's a situation where, you know, local or really local contractors would hijack a project. Basically, all they need is just to, you know, to have a stake, you know, on that particular contract. How they do it is that they would attend your normal briefing session, like any other tender. If it's an open bid where a briefing is compulsory, they would participate in that process. Wait until a situation where a contract is awarded. On the day when the project is launched, and you know, there's a sort turning, immediately when the contractor, you know, takes occupation of the site, then you know, these bidders would come onto site and demand, you know, that they also have a stake. They would demand, you know, even you know, a particular percentage on this contract, which is one of the main challenges that we're facing in the country. You know, whilst prescribing, you know, the percentage on that contract, they would also prescribe, you know, which works or sections of the works they want to participate. You know, we've tried so many avenues, even strategies, where would even, you know, would appoint them as subcontractors. But appointing them as subcontractors, now we are enforcing it now to the, you know, to Prince or to the main contractor. In this case, now they would also then you know, apply rates which they deemed you know, which are suitable to them in this particular instance, and resulting in some of the cost variance on the project even before the project can even commence. One of the main issues, I think, which is also aligned to the first question that you've raised, is also the issues of the financial muscle as well, because they also do not have financial muscles. So meaning that you need to make upfront payments, which is also prohibited in terms of your MFMA as well as the PFMA. So it's one of the main issues that as a country we are facing. So just to bring to bring it back to the situation, what I would propose is that, I think, which is the practice that we are putting into place now, is that, we try and localize, contracts. How we do it is that, at the procurement stage, we would then target, our budget, such that a certain percentage of the budget that is allocated to MISA or any other institution would then target that budget such that we also attract local contractors and emerging contractors as well. But one of the key critical aspects is to ensure that there's also participation in the emerging contractor development program, and meaning that you need to build capacity internal within the municipality. I think which is one of the main points which the DM in her speech has touched on, and that as well on capacitation. So we also need to ensure that there's also that capacitation within the municipality to ensure that they're able to monitor those projects. In that regard. And also the other issues, also issues of the partnership as well, because as government on our own, we cannot resolve all these issues. We also need private sector. We also need a community participation as well, in that regard. So this is where what we use. I think in the past we used to call it forced marriage in the form of joint ventures. But this time I think it needs to be regulated properly, where joint ventures, we ensure that there's no reputational damage, because in any case, most of the times that partners that volunteer into a joint venture, they prefer to work with people that are comfortable with, they are familiar with them, they know that they've got they've got necessary skills and also resources to enable them so that they can meet their contract contract duration, as well as their timelines that are set on that particular program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mshali. If that is anything to really go by, I think what genuinely ties in with this as well is, I'm just asking myself, what then do you do from the perspective of when one is, they are just a multifaceted of issues that stem from the construction industry. And I guess once one becomes a professional is when you sort of enlightened with all of this world of like wonders that of issues to deal with. And I think I'll direct my next question to Dr. Mieza, who is with us virtually. Dr. Mieza, I can't see you, but okay, I'll just turn around. All right, so my question to you, and just really looking at, what is happening in the space of contractor development, but looking at the professionalization of them, what are the future directions that you think exist, for contractor development, and how can those be adapted and, according to the changing landscape that we're facing all the time within industry? And particularly looking at the issues of digitization as well as automation within the sector. So how are professionals sort of being brought along, and what is happening with regards to the curriculum and what's being looked at from the perspective of CBE?
Thank you very much, colleagues. Good afternoon. Apologies to the organizers that one is not able to be present physically at the venue, but thanks Prof. Clinton and Dean Mashau. Let me start by conveying our condolences to the colleagues who lost their lives and families of those who lost their loved ones in George as well as Engobo. I think this seminar is taking place in a very difficult phase in the history of our profession and the industry. And therefore, as what DM was alluding to, it requires us not just only to reflect on what it was and what it is and what the future should be, but also address the prevailing issues that confront our industry. Now, one of the issues that we need to appreciate in the sector, I'll ground my submission because we are in an academic space. In a closing remark, the Deputy Minister spoke about a report that must come out from these deliberations. I do think that's what professionals do. we reflect in action, we develop solutions that can be implemented. We can then only assess them as we implement. So in addressing the question that has been posed by you, Program Director, I think one of the challenges confronting our sector as part of a broader scheme of things is our ability to be agile, fear of the unknown. Technology dictates that we need to change the way we do things. And the Deputy Minister spoke earlier about embracing our indigenous knowledge in the manner in which we design buildings of the future. You see some remnants of some of the innovative solutions coming through in some of the cities and towns and villages, i.e. your Cosmo City, your N2 Gateway, and Conubia in Devon. But I think we're not doing enough as a profession. I think I argue most of the time with my colleagues that up until our profession accept that we participated in the creation of spaces that were not habitable to South Africans, broader South Africans. And the question is, if you reflect back to 30 years of democracy, what it is that we've done as a profession or as a sector to assist government and society to dismantle apartheid geography. And I think that should be the core question that we're asking. Yes, technically we are competent. We can roll out infrastructure. We can save government money. But I do think that the broader question that we should be asking ourselves, one, relates to our ethical conduct as professionals. Two, how do we broaden the space for young professionals or young candidates to come through? And three, how do we ask ourselves questions on the spaces and places that we create, on whether they are actually assisting us to envision a country that is different than the one we inherited in 1994. So broadly speaking, that's how I would want us to, from a built environment point of view, that yes, it's important to professionalize. But what are you professionalizing? Are you professionalizing people who are going to continue with the status quo? Yes, sometimes when we talk about decolonizing the built environment, profession, or education, there is a temptation to assume that you are sloganeering. The bottom line is we should be able, through universities that are training these young kids, to be able to train them enough to work in places like Alexandra, to work in places like Ndwedwe. So those are some of the challenges and opportunities that I think as an industry must take into account as we think about the future for the next 30 years. Thanks, Program Director.
Meaningful, and we appreciate you attending, through it all, and regardless of whether you're able to be physically, we appreciate it. I think now I would like us to shift focus, and I will ask maybe, if we can get 2 or 3 questions. I'm told that's the limits that we've got. So I know there will probably be plenty, but let's limit it to 3. I see there's already one hand up at the back. Is there a roaming mic? Gentleman at the back as our first, and then there's a lady in front who's second, and our last one, I don't know who was first. Don't kill me after this. But let me just go with the gentleman middle, in this, just above, in front of me. Thanks.
Greetings to the sitting, all protocol observed. My name is Tato Sekwele at the University of Johannesburg, FEB. I would like to applaud the initiatives that have been carried out by CBE, particularly for the Universitas 21 in championing faculties of engineering and the built environment, and also the CIBD for taking the initiative to recognize graduate within the engineering and built environment, that when they apply for their CIBD, they get spontaneously excited to get a level up that matches their qualification. So with regards to the CBE and the CIBD, we like that the CBE make it a mandatory or a prerequisite that within the professionalization of a built environment, when you graduate from any institution within the engineering and built environment, that a registration or licensing of any of the statutory bodies is also a prerequisite, so that we are able to bridge the gap that the Deputy Minister has alluded to, and also what the CEOs are also alluding to. So in order for us to be able to come up with transformational solutions, the key is in having a unity within how we are coming with the solutions that we have already devised, and having a practical implementation that the youth should be the key drivers of taking forth the built environment, and also having to be major and meaningful participant when they are at their exit level of attaining their qualification. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure, was there a question in there? I'm just hearing shining reviews to both the CBE and the CIDP.
It was more of a compliment and a comment, and
Oh, thank you so much.
high level input.
Appreciated. Yeah, I like that. Okay, maybe let's then, I don't know, do you want to respond to it? Okay, yeah. Let us move on to the lady, yes. Please, could you stand, ma'am? They'd like to capture you, if you don't mind.
Good afternoon, everybody. All protocols observed. My name is Deliwe Rampa. I'm the head of procurement at SARS, South African Revenue Services. I'd like to appreciate the speakers as well as the Deputy Minister about, information that is provided, particularly to upcoming students and that are going into this industry that is complicated and also has many challenges. But I think these forums are very important in informing the upcoming constructors and entrepreneurs in the near future. I think also I would want to add what was said around accessing opportunities around the construction is also particularly in the public sector. It's important that you get exposed to all these forums, and there are so many opportunities you get invited into. You need to come into these forums where we educate and develop SMMEs and upcoming entrepreneurs about what to expect, what are the requirements, because you might have the necessary skills, but you might not have further information, which was mentioned earlier around what we encounter mostly is where administrative skills that are needed. We do financial analysis. We want to also assess whether the business does have financial capability to undertake a project. So those are the skills that are also needed. It's not only your construction skills, but you need to have those skills. Again, also in terms, what is very key, which I find are the issues, is around the legislation. There are requirements on how tenders are completed. You might know other things, your technical part, but there are also requirements that you need to familiarize yourself with. So all these forums, the National Treasury requirements, the CIDB, and all of that, you need to be informed. You need to partner with people that can educate and contribute into your business as well. So I think that was my, my input in that. And the last one is around the digitization, the modernization of the construction industry. I'm not sure if that was addressed properly, because we are living in an era of modernization and digitization, robotics and artificial intelligence, where we are transforming not only the construction industry, but other industries are now coming into that era. I would maybe, if it's not addressed in this forum, I would also maybe encourage that this be considered in the future, because these students are coming into the industry. They're not, their minds is transformed. They're very, they're looking at the technology, and they're quite, advanced in it. So we have to look at how that how the industry is transformed so that they are easily, come into the industry with those skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will you take that for us?
I think our colleague from SARS also wanted to add that. I think that's why she's highlighting SARS. You need to pay your taxes when you're a business. A lot of people get chased and get into serious trouble by not dealing with that aspects of that. Yeah, but on the digitization, yes, I really think maybe Prof. Clinton, maybe in his closing, or he will highlight that, because I do think it's one of the major game changers that will create a situation of what do you call this, centralization of work amongst, if you, for instance, with building information modeling or management, if you are not conversed with that or not able to do that, you are pretty much excluded from international projects, as a contractor, as a consultant. So you're starting to get that. And the larger businesses are far ahead of others, and you start even seeing it sometimes in tenders, which I don't like, but I think it's a good thing, but it's also creates exclusion where they would state, we need you to be BIM level 1 in a small municipality far away, and then it's showing the direction that the industry will be going. So there are many technological changes that are happening that I think will affect the future of construction. Even procurement itself, we are still stuck in the Stone Ages on how we do it. And those things will change. Many are going online, but there are many technologies that can be used there to improve transparency and other aspects. Yeah, I think it's an important point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dladla. Would you want to come in as well, DDG? Thank you.
I thought those were very good points that you were raising, and it talks to our reach. Are we reaching, for example, the youth, particularly at a school level already? One thing that we are not picking up on is the fact that how do people find the construction industry? Do they find it interesting? Is this a field that they would want to be in? So for us, it's important to recognize even technology can help us to be able to bring about that interest. So when you look, for example, and you tell the youth that there's 3D printing for so many plumbing products or what fitments, etc., and at the same time acknowledging that by focusing on those aspects that you are able to then bring the people in, but bring in your other departments, better departmental collaboration, where you say to science and technology, help us to bring about the sexiness of the construction industry. So it's about improved awareness, capacitation, etc. And I think also it's about putting out the latest trends. And I don't think people are so fully cognizant of the latest trends. And I think one of the workshops we could be having is how people are using, for example, even printing on concrete slabs to be able to do the markings, etc. How to do work in the office whereby you would improve on visualization of construction buildings, etc. That will increase the awareness. That will also give the competitive advantage for contractors to be able to say, yes, as government, how do we keep our eyes on what is new? So if there are new contractors coming into a very competitive space, the question is, how do we improve their knowledge and their direction of where they must be facing? So that they don't think the conventional way only, but they say, I can sit in my home today, and because of the technological changes in terms of AI, I can fast forward my position in the industry by going ahead and researching these particular trends, trying to find investments in relation to it. And as government, we need to help them to get the connections to these other opportunities.
Thank you very much for that response. I think let us take the last question. We're running out of time very quickly. If you could keep your question short and concise, and I'll ask that the panelists as well, whoever responds, 30 seconds, please.
Thank you, Program Director. Always the challenge being the last speaker. Né? Sorry about that. So my name is Rudy Peterson, and I head up government and stakeholder relations here at UJ. So thank you very much, Deputy Minister. In her absence, all protocol observed. I had the opportunity to mingle with the DDG Abrams earlier. And I must just say, we are proud as UJ that the department could be bringing this important conversation to UJ and celebrating 30 years of construction industry. And I'm sure, and I want to link up with my sister from SARS that said, well, the challenge is how best we enable, use technology enabling. And I must say, you've come to the right place. UJ is known as the institution of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, as you know. Our former Vice Chancellor is now at the United Nations University. So that issue is addressed. Having said that, I think Prof. Clinton, as the SARCI chair, would also, I think, I would also wanted to say we need his comment also in terms of the technology enabler. So in terms of my question, it's a bit of a challenge. So DDG, the problem in South Africa is that we've got good policies and we are very good at policy development. But the one thing we are not good at is monitoring implementation, and sometimes we lack on it. So there's also the issue of synergy in government. So there's lots of duplication in government sometimes. And you would agree with me, DGG, and sometimes it stifles delivery, service delivery in government. So my question to you is, how then do we better integration, monitoring, and evaluation? And I'm kind of thinking aloud here. Is the solution that instead of creating a ministry of electricity, to create a ministry of integration, cohesion, and synergy? Because across government, there is duplication and there is just not synergy. I like it when Mr. Lara said, well, the first thing to do also as a responsible citizen is, are we paying our taxes, right? But I think across government, there is a lack of integration and synergy. So, and it stifles government. So I leave it up to there and look forward to your input, DGG. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's as if you were on a fly on the wall in the session I was earlier in this morning. I think we met as government, particularly to look at poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And so what you very often find is that all of us will speak at you and tell you we're doing X, Y, and Z well. And I think the point that we were raising was to ask the question, where's the connectors? So if you have, for example, we have the Expanded Public Works Program colleagues in the room. If you have the Expanded Public Works Program colleagues in the room and the SASSA colleagues in the room with the grant, the SRD grant, and the aim is to be able to alleviate poverty and provide job creation, we need to start to be tough on the various programs and ask the question, I hear you from the Expanded Public Works Program. What happens after the job opportunity is done? Where do people go? And so as government, we need to start to ask, where's the connector points between the programs? In other words, we must develop better pathways. The next thing we need to be able to do as government is to be able to have better monitoring, as you state. We need to start to ask the question, who is the single entry point for all of these interventions? Is it the Department of Employment and Labor that has all of our IDs on it? So whether you're a contractor, whether you are looking for job opportunities, whether you're looking for employment opportunities, to actually recognize that the government is spending resources on every individual. And to ask the question, if I take your ID and I type it in and I ask the question, what did you benefit? We must be able to see what you benefited. And then as government, we must be able to say, aha, there is a student that got a bursary from Public Works, but they're now unemployed. And are there many more people on that database that have a similar program? How do we then develop, based on the data and doing better data analysis, better programs that are intended to reach? So I think in essence, we as government need to be a bit more tough on each other to be able to say, I hear your program, but if it doesn't achieve a greater impact, it's not good enough. How do you talk better to each other? How do we bring the the private sector in? How do we build better databases and a single point entry where somebody can tell us the changes that a program has made at an individual level? We also need to have a lot more discussion on households versus individuals. We also need to discuss the issue of dropouts. We need to be able to say governments spend the resources, but if we do not optimize the resources, then it's a bit of a challenge. We need to introduce accountability. And for me as a government official, the question I ask is, when my team gives out bursaries, to ask the question, if somebody didn't finish up their studies, while they are there, how do we support you? But if they do not complete their studies, to be able to say, how do we encourage accountability, debt recovery, all of that? Because that was somebody's opportunity. So we need to start to look at these finer things in relation to implementation. Policy is good, but we need to ask each other the tough questions, have single point of entry, much better monitoring, and then obviously when we engage you, we need to be able to come better with stats, figures, etc. But this type of forum is very, very valuable for us, for whereby we present to you, and as the young people, we want to encourage you to even critique us as government in relation to the work we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DGG, for that response. I know we've taken a lot of time. Please don't kill us, Program Director. I'll rush them off stage very soon. But yeah, just in closing, thank you so much to all our panelists. Thank you as well to you, Dr. Mieza. And yeah, so let us get off the stage.
Before you run off, I also have gifts for you. I think the only person who might not get his is Dr. Mieza. I'm not sure how we can get it through the screen, Doctor. So
I've got my team on waiting patiently there.
okay. Again, this is a token of our appreciation for your time with us this morning or today. It is the afternoon now. We do appreciate. Please go ahead. Thanks, Prof. At least I'm helping you get your 10,000 steps in for the day. If I can just ask the members for the second panel to start getting up on stage, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocol observed. My name is Trifina Hokong, and I really would like to take this opportunity to really thank the organizers of this event, University of Johannesburg, all the partners and all the sponsors who are part of this event, the panelists that are here with us today, and also just recognize and honor the Honorable Deputy Minister in her absentia as well, Program Director, all protocol observed. My name is Trifina Hokong, as I have been introduced, and I'm the founder and CEO of Triumphant Zoe, and my organization offers professional quantity surveying services. So in the interest of time, I would just like to please ask that each one of our panelists quickly introduce themselves before we delve into the discussions. We can start from my right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Mahachi, and I'm a director for Sustainable Materials and Construction Technologies Research Center at the University of Johannesburg.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tebogo Malaka. I'm the CEO of Independent Development Trust, which is an entity of the Public Works, and we deal with infrastructure development. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. So I'm Titi Bogutwala. So I'm currently down there, so in the Xhosa Land, East London. So started in January. So I'm the ED for the Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment and Information Technology. So that's what I'm tasked to do, to build a new faculty.
Good afternoon, I'm Malusi Shezi, the CEO of Construction Education and Training Authority. We're responsible for the skills for the construction industry.
Okay, thank you very much, to all our panelists. So in this particular panel discussion, we're actually going to be looking at the innovations that have shaped our South African construction industry, as well as look at the actual education within the built environment and the skills development that we have, and then look also at the public sector service delivery. So because now, we don't have a lot of time, I really would like us to delve into these discussions as quickly as possible and try to also be brief in our responses. So just the first one, I'm going to be looking at the innovation itself and just reflecting, on the past 30 years of democracy in South Africa. I'd like actually Prof. Mahaki to please listen in for this question in terms of the innovation. What are the actual transformative innovations in this construction industry that have positively shaped our country's infrastructure development as well as the urbanization thereof? And how have they actually impacted on the improvement in project management as well as the improvement in the completion rates of projects? If I may ask, Prof. Mahaki.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon again, colleagues. I think, thank you for the question. And the first thing that we need to be able to look at is what is innovation, right? In this case, within the context of construction, we are actually looking at the adoption and implementation of new technologies, and could be new processes, new materials that would enhance the efficiency of the construction industry. So one critical aspect is that we are not really talking necessarily only of new technologies, but it could also include methodologies, new methodologies, using conventional materials, for instance, to actually improve the construction processes. So over the years, since 1994, so I think we've seen an introduction of many technologies, and I happen to have been involved in the space of construction innovation over the last 20, 25 years, focusing mainly on construction innovation and having been involved with an organization which is actually called Agroma South Africa, and Agroma is actually responsible for certifying all new innovative products. So when we look into the journey of these technologies, we find that there is and there's been quite a number of technologies that have been certified by Agroma, and I can gladly say that more than 150 technologies are out there in terms of walling systems that have been approved and ready for usage in the industry. However, now when we look at the uptake of those technologies, which technologies have been used, right? There are good examples where we can actually highlight new technologies that have been used. I can highlight, for example, a big project using hempcrete that has been done in Cape Town. It's more than 20-story building. That is actually a new innovation using new materials. But there are also other social infrastructure projects that have actually been used, built using innovative technologies. But then the uptake has not been that great on the other hand. Right. I think the first panel indicated some of those challenges related to finances, some of the challenges related to social acceptability, particularly when you look at it from the housing industry perspective. Right. So social acceptability has been one challenge. The financial institutions not being ready, not being aware of some of these other technologies. So yes, yes and no, good uptake of some of the technologies. But on the other hand, we also have other technologies besides the walling systems technologies, but we are also talking of digitalization, which was also mentioned, BIM. I think the previous CEO of CIDB talked a little bit more about building information modeling. Over the years, again, we've seen quite a good uptake of BIM. It is, if I might actually say through Chair, our condolences for what actually happened at George, but lessons also obtained from that perspective. We can also adopt, we could have adopted and foreseen some of those things there had we used some of those technologies. If we had actually digitalized that project, you could see and foresee some of the challenges that actually happen on a construction before you start actually doing the whole construction process. But I'll pick it up as we go on and give others an opportunity to talk.
Thank you very much. You are very right. The actual uptake of the technology is quite key in making sure that you receive those benefits that you are looking to reduce construction process, timing, and if you're using those walling systems, I believe that they would be able to assist, obviously, the construction time to be lesser rather than the usual period, right?
Yes, and let me also just take the privilege of being able to say that as the University of Johannesburg, we've been championing the 3D printing of houses and looking at a typical RDP house or the breaking new ground house, which is typically 40 square meters. We could 3D print it in an equivalent of 8 hours for the walling system. And if you look at such type of technologies, you would be able to actually fast track the delivery in terms of time. The quality is excellent and the cost is also within reason. So I think that such type of technologies can actually enhance the delivery, not only of housing, but social infrastructure in general.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Very well said. And I think what actually can assist with that uptake is the actual education and creating awareness, that we do have such a technology that is available that can be implemented, and looking at the fit for purpose, looking at, skills gap, closing that skills gap, as well as Deputy Minister has mentioned and given us quite a nice, background of what actually the department is busy with. And now I'd just like to move on to the built environment education and try to understand what are some of the ways, this question will go to Prof. Wellington. What are some of the ways that academia and the industry can actually collaborate better and more effectively, so that we can ensure that the curriculum that is being currently taught is actually relevant for the industry, and so that the students are able to actually get the relevant skills they need to use them when they get to the workplace and to actually find a job. We've got so many graduates who are not being able to find work, and how do we close that gap between the academia and then the industry itself? Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Program Director. I think in the very particular question, you can answer it actually in twofold. One thing, I think in terms of university, in terms of the curriculum, so we need to be able to design, remember the curriculum when you design it. So we design the curriculum based, it must comply with different aspects. So part of the aspect it must comply with is in terms of the professional association, your Council of Higher Education, your SAQA. Then what we need to do now we need to bring the industry at that particular aspect to say from the industry, what are the particular skills that are required that need to be taught in that particular curriculum? So I think one particular thing that I'm seeing now, so the industry, in terms of the involvement of the industry, you find less of the industry in terms of the involvement in terms of the higher education sector. One of the ways that they need to involve, if you go to other countries, is in terms of research. So they need to provide research. In terms of the teaching, learning and teaching, it won't improve if ever research is not done. So those particular needs of the industry, because program director, we must differentiate. So I've worked also in the industry myself. When you go to the industry, so the only thing employers will tell you, your graduates, so they are not fit. They don't know anything, all those particular issues. So specifically, they want the graduate to fit exactly in terms of the work specification for the particular company, which I think that one, it won't happen. So when we train a graduate, we're training a graduate, a person who will understand different competencies. We're saying from those competencies that have been developed, what is the side of the industry, from the industry side in terms of skill that need to be added in that curriculum? So therefore, to me, so we need the industry. I think all departments, what is happening within the country, within the universities. So we're having advisory panel. Those advisory panel, they need to be effective. It's not a matter of them just meeting, having coffee, having biscuits, then after that they say, our next advisory meeting is actually in September. To say, after those PACA meeting, what is coming after the PACA meeting? Are those PACA departments implementing those particular recommendations, or not? So, and another thing, also in terms of the mixture, which I've seen, so with different universities, you find the panel sometimes that all the people are not well experienced. So in the PACA industry, I think that's one of particular weaknesses, because you need people who have walked that PACA journey, who understand it, who are gonna say, based on this PACA curriculum, these are the things that need to be added. One PACA thing I can just tell you in terms of my experience of UJ. I was at UJ for a long time. So one thing that we did, we found our students, they had a serious problem in terms of soft skills. They go there, the only thing they know how to measure, they know how to manage, So those were taught by other people, by Fedi, they know only how to swear. So, so I think all of you know Fedi, you know Fedi very well in terms of that. So, but one thing that you came in to understand was soft skills, they were a necessity for the student to understand the other dynamic other than the technical. Which when we are looking in terms of other universities now, many of them now, they are looking in collaboration with the industry to say, your graduates, they know the technical aspect, but they cannot be able even relate in terms of working in terms of teams. So I think another issue that you may look at in terms of the reviews. So we need feedbacks when we send our student, and even those graduates who have graduated, those who are doing internship. Basically, one of the things, if you go to the different universities, we don't get feedback. The only thing, what the mentors do, they just sign the logbook. And after that, compliance, they comply. Ourselves, we just come and look. Everything has been done correct, everything done correctly. But if you sit down now, you talk to the student. So was there any work that was done? You'll find sometimes there was no work that was done. So I'm just saying that PACA partnership now, to say even the industry, when our students go there, what kind of capacity is actually there? Because they finish their diploma. After finishing their diploma, we're saying they've done their, experiential learning, but at the end of the day, you find they were just relaxing there. They're not doing the actual work. With program director, it comes to the issue now, whereby those PACA skills, if they're not nurtured correctly, once they go for professional registration, when they go now, you find those PACA skills, those PACA gaps, they are still there. So I'm just saying, in summary, we need a collaboration, so between the academic, and also the industry, which can take in terms of different forms. Part of it is in terms of seminars and workshops like this one, where we're gonna have the academic side, talking about the issue of curriculum, talking about different issues. So what is happening? One of the particular issues that is happening now, some of the particular graduates, they want to be entrepreneurs. Some, they want to work from 8 to 5. They don't want even run a spaza shop. So, but at the end of the day, are we preparing them? Another thing that we must look at, having a course of entrepreneurship, we've put it ourselves. I know at the 40 it was there, but doesn't necessarily mean that that particular student will be an entrepreneur. So we need a targeted approach to say, okay, maybe if they attend extra classes on entrepreneurship, we get seasoned people who gonna come and provide practical experience, to those particular students. Because I think everything, the entrepreneurship that is taught, in the universities is more theoretical than in terms of practical. I'm just saying this, it will be a particular contribution also from the industry to come and share the experience, so that when the student, they come out of the system, they can be able to choose. Either they want 8 to 5, or they say they want to work 24 hours. You sleep at 3 a.m., by 8 you're attending a meeting. So that's the kind of life of an entrepreneur. So you can tell us more about that. So I'm just saying, those are the critical things that we need to look at.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you have answered that very well. Definitely, there needs to be a lot more engagements between the academic institutions as well as the industry. And like what you're saying, developing the softer skill side also of the, graduates, so that when they do actually get to the work environment, there's that emotional intelligence, the communication skills are there in place, and it's just not more like a theoretical, understanding without the actual implementation and the application at work. So that is so important. And like what you're saying, the feedback that is being provided, when students are doing in-service training, is it the real feedback, or are they just signing off the logbooks? And those things, they do creep up on us when you want to become a professionally registered, individual in whatever capacity you may be in. So some things to consider there, definitely. And, talking about skills development as well. And I think entrepreneurship is key. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I can tell you, for the past 5 years of entrepreneurship, it is not all fun and games. And nowadays, we do have the 2000s, the younger, generations who don't like to stay long in one position in a job. And you talk about experience. So there needs to be a blending of both, where one understands the basics of, okay, how do I become a professionally registered quantity surveyor, project manager, architect, whatever the case might be. Once that experience has been developed, then you work together with the entrepreneurship at the same time concurrently. So you have options, yeah? And so next question will go to Mr. Malusi. What are some of those critical skills shortages that we have in South Africa, especially in the construction industry today? And so what are some of those innovative training methods that can then be employed to bridge these gaps more effectively? As we've had, Deputy Minister has, mentioned quite a bit about the skills pipeline, the skills development strategies, and some of the sustainable developments that they are planning, and to transform the built environment, women being more involved. But what exactly are some of those skills shortages that we can really look into addressing, so that we can be more employable? Actually, we can have more employable youth graduates as they enter the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. I think I made notes on this one. I'm not going to touch on what are the critical and scarce skills, because that is gazetted, it's publicly available, which include your project managers, technicians at different levels. But in terms of our training methods, I think the prof has started to indicate that, for me, they need to integrate the curriculum to fit technological advancement in how you deliver education generally. At this point in time, there are ways that you can expose learners and students to technology whilst they are still doing the theoretical parts of their academic program. So with that, the question is whether the current curriculum that we have now, is it fit for purpose? Is it up to date? Is it preparing the professionals of the future, or is still preparing the professionals that would have operated in the 1980 environment? Prof, you'll answer that. You are closer to it. And also with how we train, we must train for a professional that is well balanced in totality, like the professor was indicating. Like, for instance, you expect that when somebody is a professional or is a PR, they can write you a report that makes sense, that is simple, clear, and straightforward. But you find most people are good technically, but when they need to give you a report, it's something else. The question is the curriculum exposing these people how to write a business report? Because in as much as you are going to be a technical person, but never forget that you are a business person. business person is not only defined by a person who owns a business. As long as you are involved in a business process, you are a business person. For us also, how we structure the curriculum, the credits, and all the entry requirements, it talks to the issue of articulation, which is very important. As a SETA, for instance, we train our beneficiaries are in the learnerships in the main. The question is, when we look at the track and trace studies, how are they getting absorbed to the job market? Most of them, they find jobs 2 to 4 years after they've completed a learnership. And then the apprentices themselves, which are called artisans, as are well known in that with that terminology, most of them, they are able to find jobs within 12 months. Then the question, when we talk about articulation, with somebody who started at a learnership, once they have 3 to 5 years, they qualify to be RPLs, which is recognition of prior learning. For the artisans, we call it artisans recognition of prior learning. Now I'm talking at elementary and intermediate skills level. Then I'm going to link this, how then it talks to universities and universities of technology. Once that person is RPL, they can be certified as an artisan within 3 years, and we increase the number of artisans in the country. Then for artisans themselves, who may have just got a certificate and a diploma, how do we then have them to advance themselves educationally if they want to one day to become registered professionals? That is the responsibility of the training methods that are adopted by the universities and universities of technology, to say, how do we recognize some of the credits of what these people have already done, and these people to gear also their education to be more of a technical education. And then for TVETs, it's the same thing. And then when somebody has gone to a TVET, how many universities are able to recognize what they've studied at a TVET? If we talk about the curriculum and the training methods that are geared to be able to move the country forward. And then the other aspect as well, there are skills that you need, like the analytical skills that you need at a later stage as a professional. It starts with the level of basic education. Is our basic education exposing the learners to think critically and creatively? In the past, what was called under Bantu education, there was something called handwork or whatever, arts, whatever terminology was used. That thing was preparing people to be technically better than what we have today. If somebody had to build like a house with those sticks and whatever they were using, that was creating creativity. They start to imagine something. And then immediately somebody would be able to say, maybe I can be an architect. Coming from that is basic education, preparing then our learners to be able to think creatively and also to have analytical abilities that you need at a later stage for technical skills that you need. Maybe let me hold it here. The training methods need to change significantly. The CEO of your CIDB spoke about the PIM, which is something that is very critical for universities to make sure that it's compulsory and it's part of the curriculum and what we expose learners to.
Wow. Thank you so much. Very well said. I mean, the training methods are key, like what you said. And we already have those critical skills listed, as he has mentioned. He's not going to go into the detail with that. But for ourselves here, when we are present, we really need to start asking ourselves as well, in terms of the future that we want to see. Like he mentioned, if I start as an artisan and I then, progress into becoming an architect, it's that creative thinking that starts, from within a person. And so we really need to consider where we are going as we are talking today, creating the future that we want to see, right? The future reimagined and taking into consideration, again, I think working with our hands is something that we no longer really value. People, they are more inclined to working in an office environment because it just looks like a nice up job to sit on a chair, but are not realizing that actually the artisans also are part of the economy as well. And there's ways of progressing from there. Thank you for that. And talking about skills, I'd like to bring it into the capacity as well now, in terms of service delivery and in terms of sustainability and resilience as well. So how does then the construction industry really address this sustainability and resilience in the public sector projects to ensure long-term service delivery, is still there effectively? From your side, Ms. Teboho.
Thank you very much and good afternoon again. This is a very important question that you are asking, because as much as we can build modern buildings to address our service delivery challenges, if we don't address the issue of sustainability and resilience of those projects, then it's a very fruitless exercise on behalf of government. So what we need to do to address that is that we need to look at innovation. We have inclement weather in our country, something that we never experienced before. If you look at KZN and how the weather patterns have changed, it's something else. So we cannot continue building buildings the same way that we did years ago when we have all those challenges. So we need to come up with innovation in terms of how we build our projects. We have partnerships with Agrima SA in terms of new technologies. Last week I was talking to somebody and they were saying, you know, there's this floating foundation. And I'm like, what is floating foundation? And said, no, if you are building on a water area, you need to do a floating foundation, something that we never used to know, and that it can be done. So we need to look at those technologies and innovation to say, with the kind of weather that we have, what do we then do to ensure that our buildings are sustainable and we address those challenges of resilience. But also we have the challenges of vandalism amongst our communities. So no matter how much we can address the issues of service delivery and bring modern buildings to our communities, if the issue of vandalism is not addressed, it's also a waste of government money, time, and also the issues of service delivery will not be addressed. So what we do as IDT when we implement our projects on behalf of government, we ensure that our communities are involved. So we do what we call social facilitation. And we educate those communities to say, this is how much this school will cost for government to build. It's your asset. Guard it jealously against crime, against theft. When there are computers installed, your computer labs, just ensure that you protect them. We see how there are strikes among our communities, roads are, tires are banned on the roads. Those affect the resilience and sustainability of the projects that we implement. So we need to be able to train our community so that they understand the implications. And if we don't do that, then our buildings and our projects will not be sustainable, and that will affect service delivery that the government is trying to address. The issue of maintenance as well. It's very important that when government does budget for a new project, the budget for maintenance is also included, because if you just bring a structure and you don't maintain it, it will dilapidate. And that will affect the issues of sustainability as well, and that building will not be resilient. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Very well said, Mr. Boho. I agree 100% with you. Sustainability is key, and also just making sure the community is part of the process. When there is a project, they feel like it's their own project, and so they will make sure that they protect it and they don't vandalize the project. And again, resilience is important. Looking at, facilities management, and how do you also make it more sustainable in terms of the, clean energy, sustainability in terms of green buildings, and as Deputy Minister has mentioned, it's quite important because buildings do consume 40% of the environment and also contribute to climate change and all of that. So thank you for that response. In the interest of time, I would just like us to give some time to the audience. If there are any questions, please, let's take at least maybe 3 questions or so. All right, I see the lady over here, and then there's a gentleman there. Okay, I think you raised your hand first as well. Thank you. So please, when you're asking your question, let's take all the questions together at the same time. Then please mention who you are addressing the question to. Then they will take notes of your questions. Then they will answer after. So for the interest of time, thank you. The lady over here. Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry, I had to wait for the mic. My name is Juliet Miabo. I'm from an organization called TEDCOSA. Should I stand? Okay. It's Juliet Miabo. I'm from an organization called TEDCOSA, which stands for Township Economy Development Community of South Africa. Thank you for your input, Putwam. So I missed the name. Our biggest concern, I just came from a session now where we're discussing about the skills and lack of skills amongst entrepreneurs. And the point that Put has raised here about people not wanting to get into the entrepreneurship space because of its challenges. But the biggest problem is what was highlighted, that entrepreneurship is not in the blood of our young people from an early age. You cannot expect a 20-year-old to want to take risks of something that they've never been exposed to. They can take a risk of riding a train while it's moving because they've been exposed to it. That's easier than you telling them that they must put their money into something that they might not see returns of maybe for another 2 years. So now, how does an institution like UJ and other players that are sitting here, how are they going to lobby government to ensure that at an early age, at an ECD level stage, at a primary school level stage, we show that there are benefits to entrepreneurship? Rather than saying, take a girl or take a boy to work, what about taking a girl and a boy to a business environment so that they can see that there is benefits? Because we're not born like a lot of Jewish families. We're not born into that space, so we have to put it into our system. How are we going to do it together to make sure that we change the status quo?
Thank you very much. That is the question for Prof. Wellington. He's taken note of that. Thank you. And then the next one was from the gentleman there. Thank you.
I equally want to thank our Executive Dean, Professor Daniel Mashao, the Vice Dean, Didier Yembe, as well as the Director of Sustainable Human Settlement and Construction Research Center, together with all our leadership at University of Johannesburg, the government officials, executive directors who are in our midst. I'm Dr. George Anatu. I was former head of department for 6 years before I handed over to the young ones who are coming up now. I'm a town planner. My question has to do with the issues of collaborations among all the professionals. We are talking about construction building managers, project managers, quantity surveyors, architects, and town planners. How do we talk to one another? Do we understand what each others are doing? Then the other thing is equally I want to add, when we talk about the experience, what are we talking about the experience for our young ones? In the areas of which we have a program whereby our students, when you look around, if I ask so many of my students who are here today, do they know anything about vacation jobs? We don't talk about vacation jobs now. The reason why I'm mentioning this is that I'm happy the CEO of IDT is here, SITA executive is here. How can't we look at it from the perspective of whereby some of these tenders, as well as financing of infrastructural projects, that these projects are brought into the university and we expose our students to have a hands-on while they are still in training? Can't we have a way of changing legislation to ensure that either 5% of some of the tenders compel the contractors to ensure that students have a component of that project? Last time I was in South Korea, I visited some of the universities. I was asking them, what are your futures when you finish studies? They said, look, we are holding ourselves. As soon as we finish schools, the jobs are out there. Why? Because you see an environment whereby any project, road construction, shopping malls, building of dams, contractors are compelled to take that project to any of the nearest universities. Like IDT has just highlighted, sensitizing the community with regards to this project belongs to you is fine. Part of that sensitization is equally to say, look, within this community, there is somebody studying construction project manager at UP or University of Johannesburg. We want you to be part of this project. with that particular approach, you will see the sustainability of those projects. So it is one of the contributions of which I would like us to think along that line. The tenders, the financing of infrastructural project by IDT, is there no way we can now put that component that for this project to become sustainable, to be an ownership of the various communities as stakeholders, the university undergraduates should be part of it. So that when these students are finishing from the university, we are not expecting them to be professional for registration, but at least they have those soft skills which Professor Twala has just mentioned. They will know that occupational health and safety, when you want to go to the construction site, you need to wear a helmet. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for that question. Goes to both IDT and CETA. They've taken note of that. And then the last question to the gentleman here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kamehle Swanda. I'm seconded by the United Nations to the Government of South Africa, Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Just two things. The first one is to share with all the panel members. I look forward to working with all of them. Let me start with the issue regarding universities, where I'm currently involved with University of Cape Town, trying to create curricula that would be shared with all universities in South Africa and the whole of Africa, to try and create a new cadre of graduate who comes out ready to solve African problems. Thanks to the Washington Accord, most of our graduates can work anywhere in the world, but you take them, put them in front of Diepsloot or Khayelitsha, they're struggling what to do. So we're trying to see how do we get a graduate who comes out already knowing that the country needs to create jobs whilst creating infrastructure. The country needs to create climate resilient infrastructure, the future of work and all that. So I'm not going to go into details, but hopefully during the break we'll discuss some more. The second issue I want to touch on is in 2019 we had Cyclone Idai, and I had the misfortune of having to be sent to spend time in Mozambique and Zimbabwe. And when I came back to relax, I was deployed to Eastern Cape because 2 weeks before elections, you recall, we had bridges also broken down in Eastern Cape. People couldn't vote. And we worked with the defense forces there to help put up some of these emergency bridges. The point I want to raise there is that I learned that disasters don't care about your artificial borders. The damage is the same whether you're in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, or in South Africa. And therefore, we need to learn from those who have had problems. In Mozambique, they had disasters in 2000. You remember that girl who was born in a tree? Yeah, she's grown up now. But they've had disasters ever since. And the same in KZN, I think 5 years ago, we started having floods. And people still get surprised and call it a disaster. It's not a disaster anymore. We just need to plan for it and accept that climate change has arrived. But then what's the relevance in what I'm talking about is to do with the designs. I had coffee with someone who manages infrastructure in a province I will not disclose. It's not here. But I asked this person, some of you have heard this story before. I asked, what happens if your bridge, which was built 40 years ago, collapses? Are you going to put it back to what it was 40 years ago, or are you going to build it back better? They said, I see you're trying to trick me with your question. Unfortunately, I will build it back to what it was 40 years ago. I said, why would you do that? They said, because of the standards. If I try to be innovative, build back better, it collapses, I lose my professional indemnity, I go to jail. So I'd rather build a structure that I fully know will collapse, but I'm protected legally. So the challenge I'm throwing back to all of us today in this room, how do we revisit our design standards so that they are relevant and become ready for the climate change that we're all talking about? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that input you've given. It's such good food for thought, and I'm sure that you can engage with all the panelists here afterwards just to discuss further as well. So let's just go back to that first question with regards to how do you actually involve entrepreneurship, from an early age, not just, the youth being surprised as they become adults. Thank you.
No, I shall thank Program Director. I think on that specific question, so there are so many answers to that question, but I can answer it the other way informally. You know, there's one bigger thing if you look in terms of the other cultures, which is not there in the black culture. From the young age, they are taught the skills from the family. Ourselves as black people were not doing that. So you find a student, some of the students who are not blacks, when they go to university, they just want a certificate to be able to run a business. They've got all the skills, they've got everything. Ourselves, the entrepreneurial skills we're thinking about now to say now, there's unemployment. Unemployment is high. What you need to do now, we need to factor in those entrepreneurship skills within those programs. So, which to me, I think we need to go back to say, as we grow up ourselves, there were skills that were taught at home. You know, one fundamental, even at school level, part of the thing that was taught ourselves, it was compulsory to do sewing and woodwork, all those type of things. Even now, I know how to sew my things. I know how to do those type of things. So agriculture, it was compulsory at primary for all of us, which that was the main thing that was ever done to black people, to remove agriculture not to be compulsory until high school. So therefore, what I'm saying those are particular things now that we need to lobby now, even at school level now, at primary level now, to say they must take extra classes. So in terms of those entrepreneurial skills. So I'm just saying, because part of the thing that we find at a university level and at a work level is the issue of attitude. Some of the people are not able to do their work, not because they don't have skills, because of attitude. How do you teach those things? You teach them, you mentor them at an early stage, so to deal with the issue of attitude. Otherwise, many people are competent, they know how to do their work, but the only thing that is lacking is attitude. Otherwise, if you can deal with the issue, you're gonna have a better society. Another thing, why I'm raising this issue, I've seen, on a just a short story program director, I visited a friend, actually last month. I found they were just at a playground, they were kids. They were just reading, they were having some papers, so laminated, those papers. Then I asked them, what are these kids doing? And say, no, every Saturday, they actually come here. What they are doing, they are citing verses. So that on Sunday, when they cite the verses, if you cite the verse very well, you actually get a prize. Then I say to my friend, what about if you can do also, we do something like that, we give them something like entrepreneur, we teach them, we give them something, how to start a business, how to do this kind of thing, so that they also, at a younger age, they also have competition about that. Understand to say, we can give you some money, so at a family level, then you are able, so actually to run your own business. But I'm just saying, there are things that are happening there from the church that you can learn, because that's indoctrination. We also need to indoctrinate them now to say, your future is around business in terms of the thinking. Then later in life now, they can be able to say, do I want to be a worker, a full-time worker, or I want to run a business? I'm just saying, to me, we need to look at the orientation now to say, in terms of business, at an early age, we need to be able to initiate them. So, at that particular level. Otherwise, we're coming later on, which you find is actually too late. But the other initiative that we actually need to look at, I'll just tell you about a short initiative.
We have to actually go to the last question because we are running out of time now.
Program director. At Walter Sisulu, we've started a cell phone repair program. We can talk about it. So training people is working very well. So we can talk about it, how it's creating work. So if you look at cell phone shops, all those shops in South Africa, they are not done by South African. So I'm just saying there are opportunities there that you can work on. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. I don't know how much more time we have. We don't have any more time. Okay. So I guess we will have to close it here at this point. And thank you to our panelists. You know, they came very prepared, and you know, the discussions can go on and on and on. But thank you also for the audience and your interactions with the panelists. And I want to take the opportunity to also thank the University of Johannesburg, you know, the sponsors, the organizers, program director, the executives, the CEOs, and all the distinguished guests who are here with us today. My name is Trifina Hokong. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Trifina. And before everyone just moves away from the stage, we've got Prof again on stage, just to show our appreciation to the guests for their participation in the second panel. Can we give them a round of applause, please? What an impactful session we had with the 30 years of democracy in South Africa, celebrating an event on the history, present, and future of the South African construction industry. With a celebration, as was mentioned by Prof. Mashawa earlier, you are able to identify what your challenges are, but equally so, you are able to come up with the solutions attached to those challenges. In terms of the panel discussions that have taken place today, we were appraised of the challenges that each of the panelists experience in their individual industry. But together with that, we also were able to identify the solutions that come with those challenges. So it's an opportunity actually to change those challenges into what can work as solutions to deliver service delivery within the country. So just in terms of some of the solutions that were identified, I'll just highlight briefly, just so that we can leave here not only remembering the challenges that were actually that were highlighted, but also the solutions that were provided. Practical solutions that are implementable, and some of those solutions came up during those discussions, some of which relate to access to funding to tackle the new contractors' challenges that were spoken to earlier, the compulsory policy implementation to assist with contractor development, the ways in which contractor professionalization and development can be rolled out, incorporating technology to enable innovation and modernization, accountability through the integration and cohesion, as well as synergy by government departments, the bridging of the gap between academia and industry through curriculum design that complies with the different relevant aspects that are aligned to the industry, training that is relevant and contributes to skills development, and building capacity for service delivery. Lastly, the inclusion of communities for service delivery to proceed and progress. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the discussions relating to the panel that we had set up for today. In terms of our program, we have two more items that are dedicated to the way forward. The first one looking at the 30 years construction book publication, which will be presented by Professor Clinton. And secondly, the launch of the DSBED that Dr. Samuel will take, Dr. Samuel as Dr. Love will take us through. And then we will, after that, ask Dr. Murendeni, who is the Deputy Director for CRC, to come up stage to also then give us a vote of thanks. Before the three items, though, I just want to make an announcement in terms of what happens at the end of the vote of thanks. We've got refreshments for everyone in the foyer. And then can I just ask the panelists to go to the Waterford restaurant, but we've got Tando that will assist everyone within the panel to get to that venue. Prof?
Okay. All right, thank you very much. I think we have really done well with time management. In terms of the way forward, if you know us very well, one thing we don't take for granted is the opportunity to publish. And the way forward is that we are not going to allow all the discussions that we've had today to just go unnoticed. So we're already working on a 30 years construction book for the South African construction industry. Can we put our hands together? So in this particular book, I'm sure it's going to be a very good resource for postgraduate students, undergraduate students. But one thing we want to achieve with the book is to look at the past 30 years, but we want to look at the history. If you've done research with us, one of the things we always do is to talk about theoretical understanding. We need to know how we got to where we are, and much more, we then talk about the future. So if you are very interested, we're going to have a call in the next 2 weeks where we're going to have teams relating to innovation in construction, innovations that have shaped the South African construction industry. We're going to talk about issues of finance. We're going to talk about industry development, contractors development in the industry, built environment education, which is dear to our hearts. And listen to the discussions. In terms of the aspect of digitalization being taught, I want to say that from our research center, we don't just talk about digitalization. We are actually kind of looking at active ways to integrate it into our teaching. And for that, we are really active with construction digitalization. So at the moment, we are developing a construction digitalization lab. We are not just going to be preaching about BIM anymore. We are creating a hub where people can actually come and be taught on aspects relating to building information modeling, blockchain, digital twin, and cyber-physical system. Cyber-physical systems relates to IoT, because when Mr. Boka was talking about issues of maintenance, you realize that even the George building, if there were issues of cyber-physical system or digital twin, when the building was being constructed, if sensors were being installed and it was monitored in real-time visualization, you can actually see shift and movement before the collapse. So it was preventable because it is being done already. So we are creating that particular lab, and we have gotten a lot of sponsors that have been helping us. CIDB actively helping us also to create that particular digitalization lab, and we also partner with some universities in China. So we also look at aspects of skills development in that book, also look at public sector service delivery and construction industry digitalization. It's going to be an authored, edited book where we're going to have multiple authors from various walks of life looking across the entire South Africa. And at the same time, the other aspect of the book we're looking at is to include information from other African countries. We want to basically also understand, like for instance, the Ghanaian construction industry, the Nigerian construction industry. We have active partners in Rwanda, Namibia, and Zimbabwe, and even Lesotho, so that we can actually have it so that if somebody pick up the book and you want to understand construction, looking at where we're going to and where we are, it would be a kind of a very good resource book. So that's the way forward, and it's going to be a book that we hope to circulate to universities, and it's going to be published with Taylor and Francis, and we'll see how that particular exercise will go. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much. As we go, I'm going to call on Dr. Love and Dr. Samuel. I'm sure most of us are surprised with the other aspects in terms of what we have tried to do. we have been working on, as part of Impact We're Trying to Live. I worked with a mentor who is very, very strategic. He gives me a lot of stories, okay? If he wants to teach me something, he doesn't tell me straight, he will give me a story. So I have known him for the past 18 years. I am very happy to call him my mentor anywhere, Professor Twala. He once taught me a story of everybody basically saying things, and he said the story of who would bail the cat. That there was one particular event where a particular cat was terrorizing the whole community, and all the rats were having a meeting of how do we overcome this cat. And everybody was coming up with a lot of beautiful suggestions. It didn't work. One guy now came and gave a suggestion to say, let's put a bell in the neck of the cat. And all of them shouted and said, good idea. After they have finished celebrating, and one of the old rats now told them, who is going to put the bell at the neck of the cat? So he told me in that story, Prof, that still today, they are still waiting for the bell to be put there. The question I had asked him then was, Prof, how do I become a well-published researcher? That was my question. And he gave me a story. So at the moment, we have been working on a particular document called the Digital and Sustainable Built Environment Digest. We call it DSBED. DSBED is very dear to our hearts because we realize that in South Africa, you really have very few built environment magazines that are being distributed where anybody can write, because everybody wants to publish. We realize that people also struggle to publish in these journals. So we kind of create this particular digest that is going to be done 2 times in a year, that will chronicle informations, activities within the built environment, much more what we do. Let me try to be focused here. So the Digital and Built Environment Digest, according to the team that have been working on it with me, is a publication that is dedicated to advancing sustainable construction practices and digitalization in the built environment. This particular digest aims to unlock Africa's construction potential through innovative solutions and revitalized strategies. The digest will cover topics such as sustainable and innovative construction materials and integration of technology, skills development, education in the construction process. This particular digest is going to be produced by our research center in collaboration with the DSI and NRF research chair that we hold in South Africa. We hope that it's going to serve as a resource for researchers, practitioners, and policymakers committed to promoting sustainable development in the construction. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to really appreciate you for your time this afternoon. We have very few copies, but it's going to be digital. We're going to have it online. For every one of us that have registered, we're going to send you a copy. And this is the very first maiden edition, and we're very happy to be launching it in this particular event. I want to say to all the team that have worked on it and contributed, one of the things you will see is that the contributors are not just PhD holders. We have students with masters, and some of them have written interesting things. And inside the digest, when you have your copy on it, we also talk about blockchain technology, which we are also working on, how to use blockchain for procurement. And also, there's on page 6 where we talk about who we are. The who we are is our research focus as a center, as an entity. In case you are interested in doing your master's, you're doing your PhD, or doing research with us, you can look at the research areas and we are open for collaboration. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Dr. Love and Dr. Samia. Where are they? Where is Dr. Samia? Yes, thank you very much. And Dr. Love, they have been active on this, and Dr. Lipadzi. Oh, thank you very much. They just told me now that if you scan the code, you will basically land on the DSBED. I think people are very smart. That's why I work with them. When you work with smart people, you really look smart. So when you scan it, you are going to see it right there. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Can I just call Dr. Murindeni to come up stage to do the vote of thanks, please?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a diverse task of giving a vote of thanks on behalf of the university, the faculty, the department, and the research center, as alluded by the previous speaker. However, just to add on the previous speaker's words, we have short learning programs in the research center that focuses on construction project management, digitalization, and contract law. So as stakeholders, we can also look into those short courses. So as we celebrate the 30 years of progress in the construction industry and in the country at large, we are proud to collaborate and work with the Department of Public Works, as we've seen here, in different ways. And I think the engagements that we had today proves the importance of the discussions also going into the future of the country and the construction industry. But to be short, as we've been here for some time, so that I don't take much of our lunch time, specifically to the Department Minister, Deputy Minister Swart, we thank you, Professor Mashau and team in the faculty, DDG, Abrams and the team in the department. We thank you for also gracing us, all CEOs from all the public entities, as you know them, all the university HODs within the University of Johannesburg. We thank you for gracing us. The academics that are here as well, the students, and all industry partners, and specifically those who are hosting us today, the School of Tourism, here where we are. And just to conclude, as we are ending this function right now, all our panel speakers and their immediate guests, your lunch will be served at the Waterford restaurant on my far right. And all the rest of us behind this particular building, that's where we'll have our lunch. Thank you very much, and look into our LinkedIn pages as the center, where we'll be posting all our events in the next nearest future. Thank you very much. All the best.
That brings us to the end of the program. Once again, thank you everyone for attending. A very warm thank you as well to all our panelists. You can then proceed to have lunch. Thank you, everyone.